Here we are. Hey guys, I hope you are well. We are back tonight with the Talkwords, and I am back on round 2 with Elaine and also Jonathan. We were here last Sunday and we had a great conversation, one that loads of people have actually reached out to me and made comments on and been really interested in. So obviously we decided to do it again and go a little bit further down the rabbit hole and talk in some more detail about sound, energy, frequencies, and a few other subjects that I'm sure we'll cover along the way. So thank you both for joining me. Elaine, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Yeah. We had snow today. It was lovely. Like being a child.
Yeah, no, we haven't had any. We were meant to have loads of snow, but it's just not turned up, has it, Jonathan?
No, it's it's come and gone, hasn't it, really, over the last few weeks? But
yeah, it's
frosty morning, but no snow.
It was just enough to be magical.
That's all we need. Just a little bit of magic. That's all we all need. Just a little bit of magic. I'm finding the magical thing. Finding my key, which I keep showing everyone. Finding my key. It's a very magical journey I was on. So I feel like the magic is in the air. This one, loving it. So I wanted to go into a few kind of key areas. I wanted to start off with the power of words. And the reason being is because lots of people out there at the moment are finding their voice right now. And we are learning, and I had a deep conversation with someone yesterday about the fact that we are learning en masse that we are being told that we can't say what we think. So therefore, we all now want to. Whereas before we were all quite, quiet, and not all, but most of us were happy with just not getting involved. And now they think something's been taken away. They're all finding their voice. But as we all learn to find our voice at the same time, that can be, unless you learn how to use your voice as well as find your voice, that can be a very loud space to be in. And we're in this kind of loud area now where everyone's speaking up and over, above everyone. They want to get their opinion out. They're not really bothered where it lands or how it is, as long as they feel they can tap into their truth and let that go, which is a stage that we're going to have to go through. We're going to have to go through a large amount of distortion in terms of opinions. But when we do say things, and the things we say to ourselves quietly, the things we say to ourselves outside, the things that we say to our friends, these always have an effect, because words, they have power. They have a meaning and a power. And mostly some of the words that we use have hidden meanings around the etymology of what they actually mean. So I want to go into that subject a little bit today, starting probably with you, Elaine. And kind of your first realizations to words having power, and kind of what that means to you and what you've now come to understand around that, and if you use it at all within the work that you do.
Well, yes, words do have power, and the power actually doesn't lie so much, 50% maybe in the context of the words, but the power lies in the intention and the energy behind the words. For example, I could say, oh, what are you doing? Or I could say, what are you doing? Different tone, different inflection, same words. And this is everything to do with the basis in your emotion. And if you it's like the difference between telling a lie and being authentic. People can tell. It's in the tone of your voice. Remember I spoke to you about a sound being a wave and a particle? Well, the information in the sound that you put out is key. And having done, I've trained as a clinical hypnotherapist as well. And it made me deeply realize how children get so programmed. And I hold my hand up and say, well, when I was a mum, I got my hair off sometimes and got cross. But when you, in hypnotherapy, if you want to implant a suggestion that sticks, it usually is a triple thing. It's a loud noise, like a bang, or a loud voice, an instruction, and you have to startle the person, and then it goes in. So very often when some people say negative things to their children, especially in anger, that's when they sink in. But the same can apply, obviously, the other way round, where you can soothe and calm people you can say to someone, they're there, but you have to feel it. When you feel it, those words become magical. When you show your passion in what you do, your words, people suddenly sit up and listen because their innate feeling knows where you're coming from, knows what you're trying to do. So yes, huge power in words. But more so, the power is the energetic power where it's coming from inside of you.
So as we kind of, we say a lot of things to ourselves in the mirror. I mean, I do a lot of mirror work. And what I mean by mirror work is I literally sit in the mirror and talk to my higher self. And she popped out to me one day and let me know that she was there. And I was just like, oh, my God. So ever since then, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, I've had really deep, beautiful conversations, harsh conversations with myself as well to make me realize certain things. And I've grown a lot because I don't get away with much with my higher self. She'll tell me when I'm calling my own bullshit, and it's like, oh God.
I like that.
You can't lie in the mirror. It's so tricky. I remember the very first time it happened for me in terms of being sat in the mirror. And I'm looking at myself, and I was waiting for a text message from a guy. And some of you watching might have heard me say this story before. I was waiting for a text message from a guy, but what I'd sent out was pretty, let's say, a little bit bitchy. So I'd sent out this text message, and I'm waiting for a response. And my higher self was like, "You're not going to get a response from that," in the mirror. And I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Reread your message." And I'm just thinking, who's that? Who's talking? It was really weird. It was like, who is that in the mirror? But I know I need to reread the message. And I started rereading the message, and I was like, oh my God, I sound like an absolute bitch. She's like, yeah, you change it and write this. So I changed it. Like I kind of said, because I'd already sent it. I rewrote it and said, I'm so sorry for acting that way. This is what I actually wanted to say. Messaged me back within like 3 minutes and was just like, thanks so much for your apology. I was waiting for that. And I'm like, oh my God, there's something in this. So ever since then, I've had this connection in the mirror. So I can speak quite positively to myself, but I can also know when I need, it's not derogatory, but my mind can chatter in other ways. And it's that power that we have in our mind, isn't it? The biology of belief that we were talking about before, what we believe about ourselves can also be true, and the internal chatter that we have with ourselves. Do you think that plays a role when it comes into sound healing, when it comes into your work? Do you think somebody's internal chatters has any effect on the work that you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a thing on my questionnaire that talks about what are your thoughts like? Are they mostly negative or positive, or how do you feel about yourself? And that is so important because the programming in the subconscious from when we're younger sets you up with a set of beliefs that it's like you really need to take a hammer to them. But first you have to find out what they are. What do I really believe? And sometimes I do a thing where I have a dialogue with myself on a piece of paper. And if I'm feeling extremely upset or stressed about something, I might write down, well, I won't use the words. I might write down, the world is awful today.
Yeah.
And then I listen for the other part and it say, well, why is that? Or no, it isn't. And you get this, it's like a dialogue with some other aspect of yourself, because we all have many aspects. And then you can argue it out on the paper, and then you suddenly find what it is you're really upset about. And it's generally, you're never upset for the reason you think.
Never.
And then if you follow it down, follow it down and are really honest with yourself and listen to that voice that's going on in your head and write it down and then argue against it, you'll get to the answer. Yeah. So
have you heard of Byron Katie?
No.
Oh my goodness me, your work and her work combined is magical. I mean, you're good enough on your own, Elaine, but she has this thing called the judgment worksheet, and it's exactly that. And it goes, and I found it a couple of years ago, and I was like, this is what I've been doing for the lot. Like, it's not just me, this is what I've been doing. She's incredible. She's huge around the world. But yeah, she has an amazing worksheet that you can do, which just cuts right through it. Which I think is fascinating. So we're going to bring Jonathan in as well. I realised as Elaine was talking, I was like, oh my God, I forgot to say hi to Jonathan again, even though we already said hi offline. So Jonathan, hello again.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm sorry. I was like, oh my God, I just left him out. But it's not.
You're
because I
wrapped
didn't
up in
do
your
anything.
work, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm just busy on my work. So what's your thoughts on the power of words and how does it play out in your line of work?
Yeah, it's kind of something because most of us are able to speak from a very early age. We don't realise the effect of our voices or our words really on others in many cases, Nat, but also on ourselves as well. You know, if you have an argument with somebody and, you know, you're really kind of going for it, if you've ever kind of just stepped back from that argument and realised that this energy within, you know, that you've created has not only kind of gone out to the other person, but it's actually having a major kind of resonant effect on you as well, you know, and you can just through the words, or as Elaine said, through the intention, which, you know, is so important in sound work, as we've talked about. The intention makes such a difference to what we actually say. And in, you know, being a musician and writing songs and things, and you can write a great lyric, but to actually sing that lyric in the way that you want it to come across, you know, it's kind of, you've kind of got to master that a wee bit. You know, it's not just, it can come naturally, don't get me wrong, and you know, that's a great natural talent for many people, but some people have to work on that to get it right. Mm-hmm. So again, we're down to that sound and intention bit, aren't we, where, you know, we can walk away from somebody after an argument and not realize just what effect we've had on that person, not just in the mental sense, but also in the physical sense as well. And of course, we know that you know, sound is the first instrument. The voice is the first instrument that we learn to use, and it's like the whole dichotomy of life is that can be used for good and for bad. And, you know, if you've ever watched any, or even not just watched, but listened to some of Adolf Hitler's oratories, you know, the man's obviously very passionate. Now, fortunately, for people who don't speak German, you don't really know what the guy's talking about. Yeah. But for those that do, you understand the truth behind the words. But even so, that power comes across. And also what I've learned is it's not just the actual words themselves, it's the rhythm that comes out with that too. Mm. So when we naturally speak, you know, if we're talking to someone and we're chilled out and it's a nice, easy rhythm and all kind of flows, you know, but if we're trying to get a point across, we tend to be a little bit louder, or we might be a little bit more staccato in the vocal pattern, trying to really emphasize, you know, a particular word or a particular sound. So there's so many factors. I'm sorry, I'm being joined by cats once again, so I do apologise.
They want to take part. It's fine, don't worry. They're not sure what they've got to say.
Yeah, they have this little kind of grooves in the table here, you know. But it's kind of, you know, being mindful of those words, that voice that comes to create those words. And of course, one of the most amazing things I've learned to work with is the sound in sound healing. Mm-hmm. And I love it because it kind of reverberates through your whole body. And if you take the sound and the word, and we're very guilty of speaking from the throat, okay, in many respects, and many people's voices are quite weak. But when you learn to use the diaphragm and you learn to express the sound and use the breath and the sound and the word, and particularly through the word Om, and you bring that up from the base, if you like, from below the navel, yeah, and you express that then through the lungs and then through the throat and the mouth, the power that can actually have is quite incredible, you know. Mm-hmm. And you've heard that the Tibetan monks doing the throat chanting and the Mongolian, you know, throat chanting, and it's just incredible. And yeah, so words are all important. We don't often think about what we say, yeah. And like you've said, Elaine, it's the intention. I'm going back to that intention because intention is really important. So when I've learned to speak in a different way to people. Number one, I can be quite broad with my accent, but just now when I'm speaking here, I've got to be mindful that I've got to tone that down a little bit. Yeah. But, you know, and that's kind of trying to connect with many people, really, rather than just a single channel, if you like. But yeah, so we've got to be mindful of that. And through the sound healing, using that for the healing, okay, is something that we all begin to learn. And sorry, I'm going on. I know I'm going on a little bit. You know what I'm like. But I mentioned probably last week that the thing that got me into sound healing was the toning side of it. That for me, that was really important because I have to express that through, you know, a lot of what I want to do for people through the voice. And I'm even beginning to work on just a pure vocal toning track at the moment in the music, just using vocals and no instruments. So yeah, be mindful with what we do with our words and with our voices. They can either be healing or they can be quite destructive.
Totally. I know you want to say something, Elaine. By the way, everybody, so when you see people doing this, I've asked all my guests just to give me a little finger when they want to talk. So it's a polite way of saying me next. So Elaine, jump on it, go for it.
I just wanted to jump in with an interesting story, which is quite true. Back some years ago, someone in amongst the group of sound therapists, we were doing research on in speech, where do you find what? And what the conclusion was is that the information is in the consonants, you know, the T's and the S's and the sharp bits, but the emotion is in the vowels, which is why usually when you get vocal exercises, you use all the vowels. The emotion is in the vowels. And the best example of this is Frank Sinatra. Now, Frank Sinatra, they called him the voice back in the day when, you know, he was the voice. And if you listen closely to his music, he extends the vowels in everything that he sings slightly longer than other people do. Because he wanted to put, I think this is one of the reasons why he was so popular, because you always felt like everything he said was so filled with everything, emotion, you know. And I just thought that was an interesting thing to say that it's actually been proved that the, you know, the passion, the emotion is in the vowels and not so much in the consonants.
I love that. And you've jumped onto our music section, which was the next bit I was going to go into, which was the 4-3-2 hertz and the power of and kind of the understanding. So I'll let you carry on, Elaine, in terms of that, because somebody asked me in the week around 4-3-2 and they'd sent me some information over and showed me on one of the videos, I forgot the machine that the guy was using, but he was using a particular machine that would allow you to see the resonance of the voice on screen and kind of what effect it had in terms of vibration and what effect the heavy music, you know, that's not 4-3-2 had on the body, and then also the power of 4-3-2 hertz. So do you want to, I think you're probably going to be a little bit better than I am explaining in terms of what 4-3-2 hertz is and why it's different. And then obviously what you were saying before, I think would be very valuable.
Yeah. In music, it's basically just a pitch. Everything is tuned to A at 440. What has been the big bone of contention is, yes, it was changed from the original setting of way back when it was something like 428 to make it brighter and lighter. And people have argued in the musical world over and over as to what is the best pitch to put things in. And as I said to you earlier on, I think the debate about 4-3-2 has come up because if you go into the mathematics and the geometry of the universe, 432 figures hugely. I'm not a very good mathematician, not to that degree anyway, but I know that in nature and in the stars and the planet and all of that stuff, 432 is in there. Mm-hmm. So I was asked by one of my colleagues, why didn't I use 432? And another thing to mention is waveform. Most musical instruments and things, most things are represented in sine waves, which are very different to triangular waves and square waves. Sine waves have a curve, obviously, a gentle curve, or, you know, if they're high pitched, then they have a very up and down curve. And I have found sine waves to be, they reach you much more on a kind of a soothing emotional level. And if you play things in 432 with that scale, then yes, it's very pleasing to the ear. It's lovely to listen to. But in the work that I do, I have discovered that 432 relates much more to the emotional realms and the energetic realms, which is why you see it so much in geometry. And I'm talking about sacred geometry and the way things are all put together. But in the work I do, I discovered a slightly lower scale, not much lower, but slightly lower scale, that particularly suits the human body. Mm-hmm. And as I was explaining to you, we've all incarnated on Earth with a human vehicle to live in, you know, because basically we're energy beings, but we live in this to learn. And when things go wrong in the physical body, then there is a certain formula, which I can't disclose, not unless you come and do my training, but a certain pitch and a waveform that is very acceptable to the body. That your body will allow it in more. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is very, very interesting, do you all know about cymatics?
Yeah, the study of sound on physical matter and on water and on sand and stuff. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, that's all related to sacred geometry and things like that. And it's quite astonishing, actually. And if I didn't tell you the story about the dolphin with the sound. No, I didn't. I'll tell you in a second. Okay. I've forgotten where I was going now. Hang on. Oh, yes. Cymatics. And it's gone. See, I diverted off. I better tell you the dolphin story. Well, okay. There is some very good research done by this chap who had captive dolphins in a tank. Sadly, but you know, sometimes the bottlenose dolphins comply with that, and they'll help. And this guy was measuring the waveform of the sonar that this dolphin put out, and he was putting objects in the pool with it. So one was a flower pot, and one was a ball, and then he got himself. He was in the pool himself in a diving suit, and so on and so forth. And then he recorded the bounce back from, like, he recorded the sonar going out, but he recorded the bounce back, which was what the dolphin received to let it know what it was looking at. And in all instances, including when he was in the pool, when he played the sound back into water, it formed the shape of a human being.
Wow.
And it formed the shape of a flower pot. And dolphins, because they are uber intelligent, they not only read your shape and your molecular patterning, but they read your balance, your state of being, so that they know. I mean, so many stories I have of dolphins that have come up and touched someone exactly where they've got a cancer or they're sick or whatever, and they've sonared them directly into. I should introduce you to my great colleague and friend, Joan Ocean, who...
Yes, please.
Do you know Joan Ocean? No.
Yeah, no, I have. Who was it who told me? Done work at Bimini Islands.
Yes, she
one,
does
yeah.
go there. Yeah, but she's in the way. Anyway, but yeah. So I'm going off track now because I was talking about square waves. That's right. I was talking about square waves and dolphins. So Rife machines, Royal Rife. He uses square waves. Now, square waves are extremely aggressive, so they do shatter. I mean, you've seen TED Talks about cancer cells being shattered and things like that with sound. But they use square waves because they're very destructive in small bursts. Yeah, I'm going to stop there because I'm kind of going all over the place. And, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, I was quite enjoying it there. I think me and Jonathan were just chilling and listening to you talking about waves. If you want to carry on, you're more than welcome to. I don't mind.
Yeah. Well, when I said to you, sound has got unlimited potential, there's so many levels of sound from everything that you do, Jonathan, even through to talking to the guys upstairs. It's all to do with sound. It's all to do with where you tune your frequency to. I work with obviously physical elements, but they all have energetic roots. All of it. It's all about emotion, patterning, things that we've been led to believe. And, those beliefs have sound signatures. And when someone is talking, when I take a recording of someone's voice, I play it back and I run it through what we call an FFT, a fast Fourier transformation. And I can find the exact frequencies. If somebody said to you, I hated it, when whatever, on that word, their voice and their body will give me the answer. It will give me the frequency of how they felt in that moment. And then I need to give it back to them so that they can detach the emotion from the physical body. So it becomes a memory, but there's no emotional pull to it. Because your voice will tell everything. Everything. Your body is asking to be healed all the time. Every time you get a pain, your body needs you to say, listen to me. And it's a very good exercise to just sit with it and then ask that part what it wants to tell you. If it's your shoulder or your head, or what does it want to tell you? And just try and listen. I know it takes practice sometimes, but and when you do intuitive healing, Jonathan, you are in grand communication with the energy of that person. And you actually don't figure out what frequency you're going to send them through your hands, or you might choose a bowl intuitively, because your higher self or whatever aspect of you knows. We said we were going to talk about kinesiology. That aspect of you that knows the answers just does it instinctively, and you have to trust yourself. Yeah.
It's like when you're doing the toning, you don't come with the intention of, there may be many sound healers that do, but with me, it's got to be natural, spontaneous.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might sound a little bit weird to my client. I'm hoping that they're kind of out in theta state at this point, but it may be that I adjust the tone until I find what resonates.
Find the place, yeah.
So it's, you could do that on a tone generator or a machine or a synthesizer or whatever you want to use. But with me, the tone, and you hit that note, and as soon as you hit that note, you know that is the correct note that's needed.
Absolutely.
It's very much like Reiki. When you're doing Reiki and you're doing the healing, and they always say that it doesn't matter where you put your hands when you're doing healing, by the way, because the healing will always find the place that it needs. Yeah.
Yes.
And healing is that, again, that intuitive thing, and again, we'll go back to intention, Elaine. Call it a sweet note, call it whatever you want to call it, but it's like, and you just hit that pitch, that tone, and the whole of my body, and I feel it resonating along with my clients as well. You know.
Yeah. Yes.
It's very difficult to put into words,
Yes.
but you can only describe it as a connection, you know. Yeah. And when you've hit that note, and it's almost like it just in my mind, I then see this body in front of me, and I feel that's going into all the cell structure, the bone structure, the internal organs, and what I also find incredible is that the way that your instruments change tone as well when you're actually doing the healings, that there will be certain points where, say, if you're scanning the chakras or you're scanning a certain part of the body, where you could strike. Say I've got a crystal handbell, and you strike the handbell, and it will become very resonant. Okay, you can move down a few centimeters or inches, whichever kind of old money or new money you're working in, and the tone will be completely different. The actual instrument is also responding to the physical vibration of the body. It's quite fascinating to hear that. Yeah. Now, I've got no scientific explanation for that whatsoever. But
you don't need science these day and age. They don't know nothing.
What's science? What's science all about?
I'm joking for scientists out there. This is
I love science.
You'll catch up at some point to quantum physics and the rest of the world, but we appreciate your analysis so far, so please don't take offence.
I absolutely love science, and quantum physics more so. I just absolutely love the whole thing.
Me too.
And I've always been mathematically challenged. I know you mentioned that maths is perhaps not your strong point as well, Elaine.
Not heavy math. I can do basics.
Yeah, basic stuff. Yeah, but I think it would have been a good thing for me. But anyway, that's a different life path. But it's kind of instinctively finding that frequency. And 432, by the way, from a musician's point of view, can be a bit of a nightmare, because I've got guitar, and you can tune your guitar to 432, that's no problem. But if you're trying to tune a piano to 432, or you're trying to tune it's a longer process to actually make all your instruments match up,
Yeah.
So when you come in to create a piece of music in 432, there is a very subtle difference, and it is a subtle difference, but it is a difference. And they say that it takes time to become accustomed to 432. So I would say to anybody, go ahead and tune your instruments to 432 where you can. There is a subtle difference. It's more of a natural earth type of resonance. It's more in harmony with the human body and with the earth. And when I got into this, I was becoming fascinated by the Schumann resonance. 7.83 hertz, which is generally way below human range of hearing, which we talked about last week, was the 20 hertz kind of threshold.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that when you use a tone generator and you get down to 7.83 hertz, I think you mentioned last week, Elaine, you have this, was it 14 hertz that you use for a subwoofer?
Yeah, that's the lowest one we can really reproduce and to be heard.
Yes.
Through a headset.
Yeah. Well, the 7.83 hertz Schumann, is totally inaudible to most. Well, to most human beings, unless
you can feel it rather than hear it.
But it's a feeling, isn't it? And so it's not the actual audible part of it. It's just the vibration alone of the 7.832 hertz. But again, a lot of speakers, they kind of don't really work too well in some of those ranges, depending on what you buy. So yeah, we can work on these frequencies, these tones that are more in sympathy with ourselves and the natural environment. So yeah, I mean, I'm losing my thread now. Nat, you've got what's
happening today? Do you know what? I don't know what's going on today, but I would just want a couple of things that I wanted to mention that I thought was quite good. So one of my friends, Maria, who is also a sound healer, we did a family sound healing the other day. And all socially distanced, but it was amazing. And her partner makes these. He's got a new design, a new machinery piece that allows him to make some new designs. So for anybody who was wondering what sacred geometry is, I just wanted to kind of give you an example of this. This is, I believe it's the flower of life, isn't it?
Flower of life, yeah.
Flower of life, yes. So it's sacred geometric patterns that are found all over the universe and all throughout nature. And then also, Jonathan, I thought this was quite interesting because, when you did me that reading, which, by the way, every single week something else is popping out of that reading that's just coming up in my life that I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this guy's spot on. So if anybody wants to read in, this is your dude. So when I found my key, and I know a load of other things were happening, and I'm learning a lot of stuff around crypto and blockchain and all the stuff with different mathematics and frequencies and so on. Everything's kind of blending into one. But then my mum put this behind me, and this is a calculator from like the ages ago, and it's just, yeah, it's a proper oldie. Yeah, she just chucked it behind my head and was just like, oh, you might want this, but it's got the pi symbol on it to be able to find pi, which I never knew was on a calculator. And for some reason, and then I'm like, why have I got this Casio calculator and I'm finding keys and I'm getting sacred geometric patterns given to me and I'm getting all this Tesla stuff with the 3, 6, and 9.
Very good. Yeah.
It's all blending in and it's all coming. And there's something, I know I'm on a journey. I've been on a journey for the last 12 years. I know I get everything I need as and when I need it rather than when I want it. And everything just kind of works out. But it's just the patterns of things unfolding in our lives now have very much to do with sound and I'm going to say money. And a lot of people are negative around money. I used to be in many ways, and I think a lot of people think at the moment money is very negative, or we're looking at what people are doing in like Wall Street and we're seeing what they're doing with money and we think of greed, or we think of our emotional attachment to it or not being attached to it. But what I want to say is, in the spiritual world and the community, if we all concentrated on earning ethical or having ethical money sources at the same time as we were learning at the speed of rate of learning about chakras and all the other stuff that goes on, we would find a really strong balance. And the area of Bitcoin now that we're going into and crypto, we're looking into these areas and they're very related. When people think, oh, Bitcoin or my finances have got nothing to do with sound, it's all energy. It's all to do with sound. Everything that you're learning, if you don't like the idea or the subject of money, but you love the idea of sound, I beg of you to go and check out the blockchain. I beg of you to go and look at what is actually happening and how all these worlds are now mathematically aligning and how they're all being interconnected, because they're all one in the same. And I'm finding them fascinating subjects. And I did a little review this week on the YouTube channels. I've got obviously this one and my personal one, so I stream to both. Ideally, I'd like to only stream to one for these shows, but I thought I'll stream to both and I'll see what the audience is liking. And so far, the top videos that the audience likes are sound-related content, like the ones we did last week, sex-related content, so whether it's conscious sex, conscious relationships, or being addicted to Pornhub. And then the other one was lifestyle and freedom. And then the fourth one, and I thought I was only going to check 3, and then the fourth one stood out, and that was money. And these areas are what people really either struggle with or really want to understand. And I just feel there's a really beautiful flow for us at the moment to be learning about, because when we start to look at it, it's all overlapping. And releasing, Elaine, I bet you have a lot of clients that have money issues or are in some kind of in resistance to money and some kind of emotional thing that sticks there. How often does it come up for you?
I think it's a big issue for everybody. Really, I don't think there's any one of us that has not been concerned about money at some point in your life. And my philosophy is to think about money as energy. And I used to have, I don't know if you've ever done any NLP.
No.
But
Neuro-linguistic programming, isn't it? Is that right? Neuro-linguistic programming? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that they teach you to do is to find out about what your values are. And you can have many different types of values, but there is always a prime thing. And one of my major values is freedom to do what I want. I've always been self-employed, that sort of thing. But with that comes the fact that when you're self-employed, you never stop working. You're always doing something. And so you don't feel free. And if you have a fear of money, if you look upon money as energy, basically it's energy. It comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out all the time. That kind of takes the edge off of it a bit. And going back to, you think money is freedom, so you have to work really hard to get your freedom. But actually it's almost the other way around, you know? When you realize you're always free, really, it's only the constraints of your mind, you realize that money actually doesn't matter. I know that sounds crazy because we all say we've all got bills to pay.
Yeah.
But it really, I think anything you can do that discusses how people think about money. You know, you talked about what billionaires do and what millionaires do, and money makes money. But it can also be, you can also manifest it in the strangest of ways if you allow it. It's all to do with how you think. Really it is. Really. Yeah. That's what my belief is anyway.
Yeah. It's like when you said last week, Jonathan, there's a lot of people out there at the moment that aren't necessarily, or that we haven't seen, that are willing to pay for sound, or you wouldn't have thought that they would be willing to pay for something like sound healing or energy work, because they're like, what's that? Can't see it, you know, especially up here in Yorkshire. And it just, for me, it's been one of my, even though I'm, you know, Nat Rich, people think, they're like, oh, hey, Miss Rich. And I'm like, if fucking only, like, I've not been, you know, and I'm like, oh, and they assume that I am rich, which has been really strange for me sometimes, because it's given me like this imposter thing where I'm thinking I'm not what they think I am. And because I've always been in business and I've always wanted to like learn more and be an entrepreneur and move more into it, just because I'm very much into it doesn't mean I've been highly successful at it. I've had so many flopped businesses. It's hilarious. I think I've got like 14 in the back behind me of like things that I've started and flopped. This is the thing that's come together with everything that I'm doing. And this is the thing that's now flowing. But I had to, you know, go through all those experiences of not making it, and the feeling of not making it, and the feeling, even though I've learned and put myself on real life courses, as we say, like the feeling of it's embarrassment, it's been shame, there's been vulnerableness, it's so hard. It's like to admit that I don't have, you know, I'd love to be able to just pay what I owe and get on with my life and not have any of those hiccups, but that also stops you moving forward, because you doubt yourself and you doubt who you are and what you can become because you owe money or because you've had these failures. So emotionally, that blocks so many things, and that is the emotional blocks, are the energy blocks. It's the things that's stepping in the way of who you truly want to be. And I think that, I feel, for me, my understanding of money, I understand a lot, like a hell of a lot, more than most people understand around general money. I haven't been earning it because I've chosen to build a business. So I haven't been physically earning it from someone else, and I've chosen that path. But I did a meditation thing the other day, and I said, you know, I'm so grateful that I've learned the value of what money is, even if I haven't had it. I can do skint very well. If I'm skint, I can be super happy skint. I can round up the troops. I can motivate hundreds of people on stage, even when I'm skint. I know that's possible. And for me, that's a life skill, which I wouldn't have earned if I'd had all the money. But I find it so interesting when people will judge other people for their money, because that's also energy. That's also a judgment. That's also a, you know, especially when they don't look at where they're coming from themselves. And it's these little emotional blocks that we have, which is all energy, it's all sound related, vibration related, that we put out into the world about money. And it's so interconnected. It changes the world.
Yeah. One thing I can say to you here, and this is the basis of, you know, Tony Robbins and all that. Look for the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
So good book. I love that book.
It's a good book, yeah. Because it's all about what you think, how you look at money.
Yeah.
Is it a tool? or is it something that you have to graft all your life not to get very much?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really important.
Yeah, I read that, and it talks about having the council in your mind, and basically having a group of people in your mind that you can go to at any time, that you can draw on their knowledge and their wisdom, and I've done that many times, and I've got myself out of scenarios where I've gone to these people in my imaginary mind, in my head, and I remember when I went to do some stuff around music, I had Simon Cowell in my head. I had another friend of mine called Quintin at the time that I knew that knew quite a lot, had quite a big knowledge around music. I had a friend of mine called Pete Gooding, who's in the music industry, and I wanted some answers. And I went to those three in my head before I went to my meeting and smashed the hell out of my meeting. And I'm like, oh my God, that's because I imagined in my head talking to those three and got the answers I needed. And you can make it up. I didn't know the answers to those questions. Pure imagination.
No, and that's where it works. You know, it works. You have to use the power that you have. We've all got it.
Yeah.
We just don't think to use it.
No, exactly. So this is what I wanted to tap into before we kind of end it for today, was the kinesiology part, which I think is kind of a nice, and I know, Jonathan, you don't know anything about this stuff as such.
Kinesiology numpty, so I'm all ears.
Yeah. Oh, one thing actually before kinesiology, don't let me forget that, but I just wanted to mention the other thing that I was looking at. Have you guys heard of Hadotherapy? Hadotherapy.
No, that's a new one as well.
Hadotherapy. So Hado is it's the Japanese term for the word wave, and it was used with Masaru Emoto, Dr. Masaru Emoto, with the water formations within the water. And when I studied structured water and I was looking at sacred geometry of water and so on, I came across his book on hadotherapy, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but I will before I lose it out of my mind. So hadotherapy is the idea of Masaru Emoto would allow someone to come to him with a specific problem, related to their health. And he would have a machine that would read the frequency of that person's body, similar to what you do, Elaine. And what he would do is he would get the frequency of that person's body, and he would have that frequency on his machine. And then what he'd do is he'd make the exact opposite frequency and lay it back over. Is that phase conjunction? I don't know what it is. It's called. It's when you do that.
Yeah, that's the principle I work with.
Yeah, so you get the exact opposite frequency and lay it back over. So that frequency, he'd program water. So he'd get water and he'd program the opposite frequency into water, and then he'd give them a series of waters to drink where they'd have to drink for the next 6 months. And it would cancel out the illness that they had because they were drinking the water that was programmed with the frequency, which blew my mind. So I wanted to mention that today.
Yeah, there is a phenomenal principle in there that is the basis of the work I do with when you have a problem, say here, and I can't, that's the other way around. When you have a problem here, I can't do it. And you put it together with its opposite, like two ends of a seesaw.
Yeah.
Because the thing and the opposite of the thing are connected all the time.
Is it like that?
Yeah. Like that.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And what happens is when you use sound like that, you end up like when you bring electricity and magnetism together, hang on, it makes the third thing, which is, power. With sound, it makes a third and a fourth. And it's the pivotal bit in the middle that brings you back into balance.
Right. Okay.
It's like having a wildly, like 2 pounds of sugar on one end of the seesaw and half a ton on the other. If you bring back the balance in the middle by giving the opposite, then it all levels out. It kind of gets to flow down the other side and level out. And that is the principle of vocal training, So there's equal energy in everything.
Yeah.
All about balance.
I love that. So yeah, it just came into my mind, and I got the book 7 years ago, and I read that, and I was like, oh my God, that's such an amazing way of looking. And it just meant so, it was so easy to me. But a lot of people would say that that's absolute crap, and they wouldn't believe it because it's so simple. But we won't go into the biology of belief of people, because that's Bruce Lipton's work. He can teach everyone. But we'll go into kinesiology before we close up for today. And the area of kinesiology, I am rereading a book called Power versus Force. and it's an incredible book, and it basically teaches you the principles of kinesiology and the understanding that the body knows what we need and what we don't need way before we do. And there's something called muscle testing, and muscle testing allows your body to be able to give you the answers. So if you were walking past an apple or a Snickers bar, I'm obsessed with Snickers bars. I know I shouldn't eat them, got palm oil, but please don't judge me. But yeah, Snickers or an apple, obviously I want to go for the Snickers. My body wants to go for the apple. If I was going to do a muscle test, my body would always choose the apple because it knows its optimum health. My body would know that when I tested. And if I wanted the Snicker, it would become weak. So you put your arm out. You can't see my arm, but you would put your arm out, or you can do like a series of tests with your fingers. You can hold a circle with one hand and your finger with another. And you would I'd say, my name is Jonathan, and my fingers would relax and my finger could go through. Or I'd say, my name's Nat, my fingers would hold straight and they'd be solid. So your muscles tighten when it's solid, when it's a yes, and they weaken when it's a no. So the Snicker would be weak muscles, it's a no, and they'd be solid for an apple. So that's the basis of kinesiology. But I wanted to see if you'd used it within your work at all, Elaine, and what you understood about it and the power of it, and if it's something that you wanted to explore more.
I don't use it in my work, but I have a colleague who's a great kinesiologist, and kinesiology is an amazing thing. There's a book out there called The Emotion Code that uses kinesiology and magnets to fix issues. And all it is another methodology of finding out what your body knows that your head will block because you don't trust yourself. So it gets in the way and it says, oh, well, I don't know if that's true. Do I want this? I don't want that. And when it's like with muscle testing, you can do the finger thing like that, or the body, or another easy one actually is the sway test.
Yeah, you stand up and you sway backwards or forwards.
That's right. Yeah. Because I have trouble kind of doing it with myself because I'm too smart for it's like I outthink myself. So I have to find a way to do it where I trust myself. But really, kinesiologists are brilliant. They do all kinds of amazing stuff. They can go through past quantum kinesiology is brilliant. That can clear timelines and all that sort of stuff. But in a way, if you're practicing it on yourself, you get to a point where you actually don't need to do the finger thing, because your intuition will tell you a nanosecond before you know what it's going to be. And then that helps you to start to really be in tune with the inner knowing. Because this is what life's all about, is know yourself, warts and all, everything, and don't judge. So as I said, I don't know too much about kinesiology, but it's darned good, really good.
Yeah.
And there are many little practices you can learn over the net, but if you find a good one,
there's a guy. Go on.
No, I was going to say they can also test you for medications and
that's exactly where I was going. There's a guy that I know.
How many should I take?
He's really good. He's a guy, he's in Poplar. He used to work in the back of a chemist in Poplar, and he is just incredible. And a friend of mine introduced me to him, and you go there and he basically uses he uses this device where you basically hold on to this metal device, and he uses the electromagnetic pulse that your body gives off, and it reads. So he's got these tiny little bottles of everything, and when I say everything, I mean there's like cucumbers in one, there's carrot in another, there's fennel in another, there's everything that you could possibly contain in your diet. Is an entire chest of these tiny little bottles, like what you'd spray with perfume, and each one has a certain food in it, or a certain bacteria, or a certain issue that you might get in the body. And you hold on to this device, and he will then run over your body, his little kind of metal device that he's got there, and he'll run over each food from the box, and on the machine it will spike up when you want it. It kind of like goes when it really doesn't want it, and then when it does, it's like it's okay. But when it really doesn't want the food or the alcohol, whatever it is, this machine goes off the scale and he just puts it to the other side. So you end up with this entire pile of tiny little like glass perfume bottles, all piled up, and that's all the foods that your body does not want, cannot handle, and will not, work with. And I went there, and it tells you how many gut infections you've got. So he then holistically provides you with the correct stuff that you need, the Ayurvedic kind of diet, and what you need to eliminate. So you don't have to go to the hospital, you don't have to go get blood tests, this is an allergy test as well. It can pick up all allergies, cats, dogs, whatever it is, but it's so thorough. And he's called Dr. Birdie. If anybody wants his details, let me know and I'll give you his details. But he just blew my mind. And that really showed me, I had at the time, because I'd been on antibiotics for such a long time, I had 12 candida infections within my gut. I didn't know. And I had to go through this whole process. And when I started eliminating things, it was, I lost a lot of weight very quickly. But at the time I was a lot bigger. I used to do mini plus size modeling, so I'm not as skinny as I've done now. But he really helped me see the power of our bodies and what we know, because you wouldn't get that from a GP. You just save so much time if you did. But and then on on what you should be putting back in, he's got it all listed there, and it just makes me so sad that it's not out there in the way that
it is. That's it. That very practice is called what used to be called Vega testing, VEGA.
Okay.
Vega with a little tester on your finger.
Yeah.
Saved my life many years ago, because I had total allergies to everything, and it was I thought I was going insane.
Yeah.
So yes, but there again, you see, that's just asking your body, and you're using a machine and it just says, no, I don't like that. Oh, this is okay. Yeah. We are amazing beings, aren't we?
We are. Absolutely. And we're getting them out there. We're getting our understandings of this out there with you guys doing your work and the way that you do. Have you ever heard of that, Jonathan? Have you ever heard of the...
I haven't, no, but when you mentioned kinesiology, it sounds very similar to the work that Donna Eden does, the energy medicine. I don't know if you've come across Donna Eden's work.
Yeah.
But we were privileged to meet her actually a few years ago. She came over to the UK, an absolutely lovely lady, and the story itself is just incredible about how she learned to heal herself after being written off by the medical profession who said, sorry, we can't help you, and how many times do we hear that through complementary therapy, saying, oh, the NHS can't do anything. And I just find that very interesting. And we are very good, aren't we, human beings? As you mentioned, Elaine, we are amazing human beings. We are truly amazing beings. However, we do tend to ignore what our bodies tell us,
Absolutely.
I wonder why we do that.
We battle, don't we? We battle with it. We fight it, and he's telling us, no, you can't eat that. It's kind of, it's no good for you. Just listen to what I'm saying. And, no, I love it, and it's very true. And we do a little bit of work through our corporate well-being stuff, and we do a little bit of Donna Eden's work, and also Jin Shin Jitsu. I don't know if you've come across that as well.
No.
But that's very much touching on the meridian points, the meridian lines and everything. And then obviously we incorporate a little bit of qigong in that, and it's all energy work, isn't it? At the end of the day, and it's all different forms of manipulating and working with the energy. So we can label it what we want, of course, but you just resonated with me, Elaine, when you said it's our bodies, and our bodies tell us what we need.
Absolutely. Every time. We just don't listen.
No.
And, we don't ask, we don't even think to ask it. Just sit with your eyes closed for a minute and ask, like you do in the mirror. You can find your own way to do it, but it does have the answers.
Like me yesterday when I found this, when I found the key on the wall, I was actually walking up the hill, and I was thinking about a show I was doing last night. I did a law of attraction show last night, which was with a guy called Ben Wolf as well, and a couple of my other friends. But Ben is phenomenal. He's got really cool way. He does something called dream yoga, which is all about manifesting and stuff. But I was walking up the hill, and I thought to myself, you know, what is it? What do I not see that's standing in the way of me being my ultimate wealthy and healthy self? What is standing in the way from me having the long, beautiful, romantic relationship that I love? Like, because I know it's me. It's not the world's. It's not the world's being a dick today and just deciding not to give me what I want. The world is abundant. The world is always available. It's me that's in resistance to the world in those areas that I have to get through. And this is the learning. This is, you know, the learning that you said at the very beginning of the show. We're here to learn. Maybe we're here to remember. Whatever it is, we are here to get to know ourselves. And when we do get to know ourselves, that's when things become better. And my life has, the more I've developed trust, and I have absolute faith, you know, in so many things. And people say, how are you so faithful in stuff? I'm like, I've seen the evidence of it. You know, there's still areas that I'm working on. But if you talk about humanity, I've got absolute faith in humanity. And people think I'm bonkers. And I'm like, if you knew the people I hung around with and met, you'd have faith in humanity. And this is why I wanted to bring people on for the show. Bringing people on like yourselves gives me faith in humanity, gives me the balance to know that the solutions are out there. And that makes me sleep well at night. You know, it just makes me so happy.
Yeah. Everyone, if you said if we talk to people about war, there is not one person that actually really wants to fight anybody else. There's not one mother that wants their children to go and put themselves in harm's way. And basically, people are kind. They want to share. They want to help one another.
Yeah.
You can see it when something terrible happens. They all come out and help.
Yeah.
It's just that we got so much fear going on, so much programming going on, that they sit at home and, you know, wring their hands and think, oh, I don't think I ought to do that, you know. But we need to be, this is all about, we're in a time now of liberating and finding who we really are.
Finding the truth.
We spend too much time on thinking about quantity of life and not on quality of life. Basis, you know.
Yeah.
And in my field of you know, work, it's this focus on death, you know. And when you begin to learn that death's not the end, that this life is just a part of the great cycle of energy, you know, we don't fear it anymore, you know. And there's so much fear right now of that you know, something's going to happen to me that's really bad and I'm going to die, you know. And we learned this very, very many years ago through our Tai Chi teacher, a lovely lady, and she taught us she would do Tai Chi and then she would read a passage from the Tao, and the Tao is all about the eternal circle of life, okay? And when you brought money into it as well, Nat, that, you know, we go through periods and we're a little bit flush, and we go through periods when we're not so flush, you know. But you know that it's going to come back. It will just repeat itself in the eternal cycle of life, and that's how we view energy. You know, because that's how energy works. And I always liken energy to if you've come across the torus, the toroidal field. That this is exactly, it's a perpetual cycle of energy, just feeding itself, and then it kind of recedes and then it comes back again, and it's money, it's life, it's healing, it's the body, it's everything, isn't it? You know, and once we begin to understand that, it begins to take some of the fear away from living, really, and thinking, well, you know, you might have 20 great years on this planet, you might have 80 pretty rubbish years on this planet, you know. It could be, as you mentioned, that it could be for learning lessons, it could be for remembering who we are, but whatever it is, surely the message for us all right now is it's quality of life. It's living the life that we've got, and really appreciating it and being grateful for what we've got, you know. So I just wanted to mention that. I hope that's
it's worth it. It was a good ending on it. And I want to just add one thing. It's something I made up a while ago that just kept going around in my head. So I put it on like all my different places that I'm on online. And it's, I don't want to die for what I believe in. I want to live for what I've got faith in. And that's a damn sight harder than dying. Truly living is difficult. Because if it was, everyone would be truly living. And you can look around, you can go to Morrison's and you can walk down 10 aisles and you'll see people not truly living. And that's not you being judgment. That's you observing what's going on. Yeah. We're not here truly living. We're just surviving, but we're not thriving. And that's the thing that we need to do.
And I think the key factor is that we forget to have fun, and we forget to look for the joy in everything.
Yeah.
And give ourselves as much playtime as we do work. I've spent all my life not doing that, and I've suddenly realized all of a sudden that if without that balance, without letting go, then you're on a path to nowhere.
Yeah, I know. We're all on a path to nowhere, really. It's just we might as well enjoy it, because nobody knows where we're going. It's just, let's just crack on with it and have fun on the way, I think.
Not one person in the world of spirit has ever come through to me and said about their passing, oh, that was a pretty horrendous experience.
I know.
Yeah.
You'll never meet a psychic or an energy worker or somebody that's had messages from the other side, as have I, of anyone saying that it's crap on the other side. No one's ever said that. So what's going on over there might not, might be a lot easier than it is here right now. I can imagine, but we're here to live, we're here to grow, and we're here to learn. So, and that's the essence of what these shows are. And this is why I love it. People keep saying to me, Nat, you're not getting tired of doing every night? And I'm like, I'm talking to my mates about stuff that I really enjoy talking about. Yeah. Like, what's there to
need to be talked about?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, there's no work in this for me, other than the fact that I'm like, oh, right, let me make sure that your sound quality is okay and your visuals okay. But other than that, I'm just chatting and having fun, which I love. So thank you very much for joining me today for my Nat chats and going deep down the rabbit holes. But I don't know when we've got you both back, but I know, Jonathan, we've already had, if anybody wants to know more about Jonathan, I did a one-to-one with messages from the other side with Jonathan on my other YouTube channel, which is Nat Rich Voice, if you just type that into YouTube. I haven't yet booked it in with Elaine, but we're going to go down Elaine's story and the rabbit hole and seeing all the history of where Elaine kind of came from and how we got to where we are today. And somebody's just made a comment. Oh, we've got a few comments actually. Let me just run over these. Dav, thank you very much for messaging. He's just saying the flora and the fauna in your gut are so important, relation to what we were talking about earlier. And then I've had profound experiences. This is Joanna Flynn. I've had profound experiences with a therapist using creative kinesiology. I highly recommend. It's out there. All the information is. And if you guys want to get in touch with Elaine or Jonathan, you can find all the information, because I've done my admin, all the information underneath the YouTube video here, or just reach out to me at nat@where'snatat.com and I can give you all the details. But guys, thank you so much for our second show. And
You're welcome.
If you guys wait there, everybody else at home, we'll see you tomorrow. I should remember what I've got on tomorrow. Do you know what? I do need to do this. I actually do need to have a little prep sheet, which is my only planning of telling me what I'm doing the day after, so I can leave you all on a high. But I just don't do that. What day are we on today? We're on 31st. Okay, so tomorrow, you've got LGBTQ and everything in between. So we're talking about alternative views. And then we've got toxic masculinity on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I have the big interview I've been waiting for, which is with Frank Turner and Mash P. And this is the young ex-child soldier from Sierra Leone. And that's going to be quite a moving chat. He's now a musician doing incredible work. Wow. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. So I hope you can join us for that. And we'll see you tomorrow at 7. Bye for now.